Morning, members. We have a quorum and it is the appointed time. Let me call the meeting to order. In the legislative session 2012-13, up till the last meeting, we have already approved 20 items, totaling $29.6753 billion, of which capital works projects accounted for a total allocation of $25.4188 billion. Today, we have 4 discussion papers, 3 of which have to do with proposals to upgrade 3 projects to Category A. The remaining one proposes the setting up of a block grant subhead. All 4 papers would total a proposal of $881.7 million. If all the proposals are endorsed today, the cumulative number of projects approved would total 24, with a dollar tag of $30.557 billion, out of which works projects will account for $26.35 billion. I, as a kind of routine, remind members that if members have any direct or indirect pecuniary interests relating to items under discussion today, please disclose the nature of such interests before discussion according to the Rules of Procedure, Rule 83A. Members, please also note Rule of Procedure, Rule 84, which has to do with voting vis-à-vis direct pecuniary interests. Please pay attention to these. Let us go into item 1 of the agenda. Head 707, New Towns and Urban Area Development. May I refer you to PWSC 2012-13-59. Members are invited to recommend to Finance Committee the creation of a new block allocation subhead 7017CX to support the implementation of projects by district councils under signature project scheme, subject to a financial ceiling of $30 million for each Cat D item and the approval of $29 million for 2013-14 for this subhead. On the 18th of February, the administration consulted the HA panel and members in general supported the proposal. The gist of the discussion has been tabled for members' perusal. And also on the 7th of March, the administration has also supplied supplementary information basing on members' requests. Now it's time for members to ask questions. Dr. Fernando Tseung and Wong Kwok Heng. Dr. Tseung, please. Thank you, Chairman. According to our understanding, this is for preparatory and pre-construction works. There will be $100 million for all 18 districts. Each district will get $100 million. And the $29 million would be for research before works are conducted, EIA and TIA, etc. First of all, Chairman, we have to ensure that these projects and the facility improvement projects in each district must be subject to supervision by the public and that they must be in the public's interest. Individual organizations or parties must not monopolize the use of the fund. I'd like to ask the HAD whether they have measures to ensure this. Secondly, we understand that different departments may be able to use the funding, like the Housing Department, the ASD, and the EPD. In other words, different government departments might need to do such preparatory work, and now the HAD is requiring funding for the same thing. I'd like to ask an administrative question. If the administration has to conduct such projects and each department asks for similar funding and administratively everything is segregated, then I would like to ask whether this is a kind of duplication. Right, thank you. Attending to answer questions today, we have Mrs. Pamela Tan, Director of Home Affairs, and Mr. Eric Hui, Assistant Director for Home Affairs. Mrs. Tan, please answer those questions. Thank you, Chairman. On the first question, the positioning of the signature project is such that, as every district council knows, it is going to benefit the public, and you must meet the district needs when you go ahead with these projects. Therefore, in the course of discussion, as you know, district council meetings are open meetings, and district councils are now doing brainstorming in the various districts. Therefore, the public can monitor the entire process. Secondly, when district councils make up their mind to embark on a certain project, and if the HAD is of the view that the project proposed can achieve the purpose, they still have to come to the Legislative Council, where there is public participation in terms of monitoring. Therefore, there is sufficient public monitoring. As for the implementation of the works, the tendering process, the identification of partners by district councils, the public will be able to monitor the process because the procedures must be open procedures. Therefore, there is a good enough mechanism for the public to monitor the entire process. As for the administrative arrangements for implementing these projects, since district councils are the advocates of these projects, the HAD helps with the coordination. This is done through the district officers of the 18 districts. Some projects might require the help of relevant government departments, and some district councils might identify certain organizations as partners. In any case, there will not be any duplication of work. Dr. Tseung. Chairman, now I don't know what facilities we are talking about. Maybe they are for community activities. What we see now is that the HAD manages community halls, and invariably some kinds of organizations would use them most of the time, and relatively smaller bodies would find it hard to book such facilities. I'd like to know whether the HAD has a view on this, especially when the facilities are built, the management and the use of such facilities, are they subject to any mechanism so that you ensure a balanced and fair participation and use by the public? Director, the facilities are there for everybody to use. If you need to go for an appointment system, district councils also have mechanisms to do it in a fair manner. Wong Kwok-hing, I support the funding proposal. I have been an elected district council member for 17 years, and I have been the deputy chairman of a district council for 4 years. I know very well that district councils need this kind of funding on the district level to embark on projects that are needed by the public but have not been provided by any government departments for a long time. Now that each district council has $100 million, and after consultation with the public, if the district council is given the decision-making power to embark on such a project, I think this is appropriate. I'd rather like to ask the administration this question. It happened before that the people wanted it, the district council supported it. However, the maintenance and repair fell on nobody's hands. No relevant government departments were happy to take up the maintenance and repair cost. In the long term, the facility might be built, but who should manage it? Who would provide the repair and maintenance funding? Now that you provide $100 million, which would be used for a project, what about future management, repair and maintenance? Who would foot the bill? Who is going to be responsible? Director. Thank you, Chairman. The maintenance and repair aspect for each project may vary. But generally speaking, if a project is implemented by a non-government department, the district council must give consideration to projects which have the potential to generate income. And also the partner to be identified should be one which will be able to shoulder the recurrent cost and which has the ability to manage the facility in the long term. And if the district council is of the view that in the first or initial period the project will not be self-sufficient, then when it comes to the Legislative Council for funding proposal or support, it must state that 5% of the $100 million would be used to support maintenance and repair and management of the project in the first 2 years. If the projects are implemented with the help of government departments, then when the projects come to the PWSC and the FC for funding approval, we will state in the papers concerned the relevant recurrent cost. Before the papers go to LegCo, the Treasury will supervise the writing of the paper, and they must be satisfied before they come to LegCo. And therefore, before the project is commissioned, we will issue the relevant recurrent costs to the departments. Wong Kwok Hing, I would ask the director to talk about resource allocation with her supervisors. In the future, if the district council will build a community facility, then the relevant departments must provide long-term support, maintenance, and repair. Now, why do I labor on this point? This is because we experienced the same thing in the past at district councils. Say, for example, a park may be built by government, but nobody was happy to send security guards there and also to do maintenance and repair. The same with toilets. The FEHD was unwilling to do maintenance and repair, and no security guards were deployed to the toilet. So what started off as a project to benefit the public would not be taken care of after they were built because of bureaucracies. Now that we have $100 million, I believe the district council should make the best use of it, but I hope bureaucracy and segregation amongst government departments would not leave the projects unattended. I hope, Director, you can take this point up with the senior ranks in government. Thank you. Okay, I think the Director has heard you. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. I believe members will not have a lot of problem with the preparatory funding. But later on, the projects will also have to come to PWSC for approval. I'd like to ask the Bureau. First of all, I believe the district officers would certainly know what items have been on the table and the drawing board for a long time, and that many projects might have been in incubation, so to speak, for a long time. Now, since you are asking for funding, I'd like to know what preparatory work you are going to do, because when the projects come to PWSC, they must meet two conditions. First of all, the district councils, of course, must arrive at a consensus, but at the same time, as Dr. Fernando Tseung was saying, that it should not be monopolized by certain organizations or bodies, because the district councils might not be able to really tap the pulse of the public, and it will be difficult for us to judge. I think the yardstick is we should look at projects which have been in the queue for very long, but which have not received funding support from government. I think that could form an objective criterion for vetting such projects. So I hope the departments will promise that when you submit projects to the PWSC for approval, you should be able to provide a list of public works projects which have been drafted by the councils. I understand that many councils are hoping that elevators can be retrofitted to footbridges, but But after conducting 10 such projects, the administration seems to be stalling. And so I hope you will provide that kind of information.
Secondly, now we understand that if the project is not shouldered by government departments, you have to consider the long-term maintenance and repair cost. That is, who is to bear such cost. How long are we talking about? That is, how long is a party to shoulder the maintenance and repair cost if we're not talking about a government department? Now, the cost may amount to a large share of the entire project cost. The project itself may run for 10, 20 years, so how long should one bear the cost for maintenance? For the information District Council lawmaker is asking for, in fact, they have been submitted to the LegCo, but it's fine for us to submit the information once again. Now, let me explain something further. At present, the projects are divided into different categories, say above and below $200 million. So it's difficult for you to look at these projects costing $100 million. As for the length of, for one to bear the maintenance and repair costs, first of all, we have to know more about the long-term maintenance and repair cost. That's why this should be considered when the District Council identifies a partner to go for the signature project. If the District Council would like to partner up with the government, with a government department, once the project is completed, the department will not simply take up the maintenance and repair for the first 10 years. The maintenance will be carried out when necessary. I think we are looking at the long-term aspect. I don't know what implications we are talking about in this case, because the maintenance and repair costs may be very high for some projects. And the director talked about the different kinds of projects. But you're asking for fund allocation at LegCo, so I think you should give us clear information for reference. Director, any supplement? We note the request of Mr. Wu. Well, for long-term maintenance and repair cost, I think that will be considered under the various expenditure of different departments. Next, Mr. Tseung. I am the chairman of Yunlong District Council. I have to declare interest. For the allocation for SPS, I give it my support. The discussion of the projects have been going on in the 18 districts, and as you may learn from the paper, some projects may not be work-related projects because some may roll out services indeed. The SPS is something concrete and useful for the district councils. In the past, work-related projects and other projects rolled out by the government did not cover the needs of the community. Now the district council can make a decision for itself. I think it's a very flexible scheme. But there are certain problems concerning the SPS. In the past, the district council could not make decision on the details of large-scale projects. We simply look at the needs in the community. And people are concerned whether the district council can shoulder up the projects. Now, I have 2 points to make to point out to the director. First of all, about the transparency issue, the director said the district council meetings are open to public. Yes, we all know that. For the needs of certain projects, maybe the public has a different view than the district council. So public consultation is very important. Excuse me. Now, will the department encourage the district council to roll out public consultation to take on board more views? This will be very beneficial to future projects. Second point, the district councils do not have experience in rolling out large-scale projects. What sort of assistance can the administration give us so that we can do a better job? Thank you. Director, please. First of all, about public consultation. We, of course, encourage district councils to roll out meetings with the public to collect views for the SPS. As for the mode, of course, the district council can decide on that. But taking on board public's view is essential. As for assistance from the administration to the district council, there is a work section in the HAD. There are professionals like engineers, architects, and in the future, we will strengthen our support to the district council. So please feel assured that there will be departmental assistance to you. Director, about the partnership which has been mentioned, from your point of view, as far as you understand, what do you mean by a long-term partner? Do you have any criteria concerning that? Now, the district council has the liberty to decide whether they want to partner up with government departments or organizations in the community. If they partner up with government departments, I don't think anybody has to worry, because all along, government departments have been doing a good job in projects in the community. Now, if you partner up with outside organizations, there are guidelines for the district council. You have to identify organizations with the financial capacity and the technical capacity. Now, please be succinct when you speak. Next, Mr. Christopher Chung. Thank you, Chairman. District councils have been in place for 30 years. I've been a district councillor for over 20 years in the Eastern District Council. I've been the chairman and vice chairman. The district councils themselves have already got an established mechanism and a set of established rules. The LegCo should see whether the projects meet our requirements. Instead, for the district councils, most of the district councillors are elected by the public, and they have to face the public. And we do not have to think about the jobs of the district councillors. Otherwise, we should be district councillors ourselves. Different councils have their own roles, and they should be left alone to do their own job. They already are accountable to members of the public. I don't think the administration is very clear about the SPS. You are offering a very good opportunity to district councils. You're offering $100 million to each DC so they can roll out projects which have been in the queue for a long time. And the projects will then be handed over to the administration. And you don't have to ask the DC to partner up with private organizations. To put it bluntly, you allow the projects to jump queue so they can be rolled out very soon. I think the administration should do the follow-up work, the monitor work. Say, for example, if they propose to build a lift or an escalator, why do you have to ask them to partner up with private organizations? Of course, the administration or the departments should give them help. How can you think a private body will help you do something like that because they do not stand to gain? LCSD or other departments, I think you should be bold in giving support to the district councils. I don't see why you have all these duplication of structures. You ask the DC to partner up with private organizations and people will suspect you of colluding with the business sector. We want to give freedom or liberty to the district councils. If they would like to partner up with government departments, there are already internal mechanisms to deal with such this kind of issue. We, on the other hand, also allow the DC to partner up with private organizations, so the project will be more flexible and more creative. So there are advantages to that. There are two choices for the district councils. They can have their own discussion on that. Chairman, in partnering up with the private organizations, of course, you can have more creativity, but at a later stage, the private organizations or NGOs will have to shoulder up the project at a later stage. But who wants to do that? Yes, you may save cost in partnering up with the private organizations in design and build projects, but you cannot ask them to shoulder up the contingency cost. Let me supplement on the monitoring issue. In identifying partners, tendering process, whether the funding is abused, all these are subject to a set of mechanisms which the DC should observe. So there is no need for you to worry too much. The guidelines is in place for tendering process. Mr. Gary Fan, I am a district councillor in Sai Kung District. We're over 10 years after the handover. The two councils were dissolved under Mr. Teng Chi-wah, and our previous CE, Donald Chung, rolled out different schemes, and now we have the SPS schemes. But the district council has to be given the financial competence and to identify professionals before talents so that we can enhance the sense of belonging of the public in the district. Now, I give my support to the SPS. Without the training of talents, the DC is left with district councillors only. We're only here to ask for improvement on bus services, and the district councils have been criticized for creating a goose statue. And this kind of criticism just give members of the public the impression that the DC is not doing a good job.
I think this time around it is an opportunity to show the public that we can indeed do a good job. But how can we do this? I was talking to the director and I would repeat it here. Page 2, para 6 of the paper states that there will be different subheads. And it is also said that $200 million would be put aside for complicated non-works items consultancy work. But I think the crux, the most politicized, controversial point of this project, and also is so difficult for the councils to make a judgment, it is because different public views and different parties, different councillors would like to embark on different projects, and they can only choose 2 out of 5 or 2 out of 10. As far as I understand, these $200 million is such that district councils would have to make a policy decision before they can make use of the funding to do technical assessment. My question for the director is, in terms of the system and funding support, can you give us more assistance? Because the decision-making process is the most difficult part. I think you should allow the public to take part. Many district councils have set up standing committees to do it, and I believe some confusion has ensued. The Sha Tin District Council is saying that they do not have enough time to notify everybody, and they are criticized for not following the exact procedures. However, if they follow all the procedures, they would have to consult on 5 to 6 projects that they would like to embark on. So can they make use of the $200 million? For example, first of all, consulting the public, and 2, if they have identified 3 to 4 projects, can they seek some resources to look into them? The district council only has, each one has $18 million every year to do minor works projects. So I'm saying whether we can make use of the funding before they make a decision on 1 or 2 projects, so that they can consult the public on preliminary views, so that you can provide them with consultancy help. Is that feasible? Director, the district offices would support district councils in consulting the public. They can do it in different ways. We can have seminars or brainstorming sessions, and district offices will have the manpower to do the arrangement, and also we can provide the venue. Members do not have to worry about this. Mr. Albert Chan, Chairman, I object to this proposal. First of all, 689 suddenly announced that $1.8 billion would be given to district councils without any consultation. This is obvious that after he was elected, many district councillors who supported him would now be seen to be a kind of political reward. $1.8 billion for a new item. Why do we need it? And how is this $1.8 billion to be spent? There should be very clear objectives. There should be public consultation. It should not be a kind of political reward or pork barreling. I have been a district councillor for 27 years. Political parties can maneuver district council funding and distribute the goodies among themselves. They can have a kind of civic activity, and they can spend $300,000, and there could be gift bags given out to the public, but coordinated by district councillors. And the district councillors themselves would be the chairman of such organizations in their own constituency, and then they would make use of public money to distribute the spoils. And this has gone on for over 20 years, and the HAD cannot monitor this because it is up to the district councils to make the decision, and the media are not keeping watch because these are small amounts. If there is a media watch, the district councils might show more restraint. However, this is what district councils are doing on a daily basis, and the media are becoming numb about this. They are not paying attention, and so district councils are left to their own devices. And there is continuous distribution of and transfer of benefits. If you look at large projects of district councils, and if you look at the priority given to them, it's quite angering. Mr. Leung Chi-chang is here. You can ask him to clarify or confirm. Many years ago, Yuen Long District Council assigned priority to projects. I was already very unhappy and I already reprimanded it. About 10 years ago, Tin Shui Wai was plagued with problems. It did not have an indoor games hall, a swimming pool or a library. And we were saying the administration should at least provide the library and the swimming complex as soon as possible. But when the DC accorded priority, the priority was for a park next to Mei Wu Villa, because the chairman of the Recreation and Culture Committee of the DC was the district council member of that constituency, and the DC member was able to get the first priority while neglecting the interests of Tin Shui Wai. This is ridiculous. In Tin Shui Wai, there is already the Central Park, and in Mei Wu Villa, they have their own neighborhood park. But then for the entire Yuen Long, the primary priority was given to a park next to Mei Wu Villa and not a library for the entire Tin Shui Wai. So you can see this kind of under-table dealing and transfer of benefits amongst district councillors. There is no public accountability. And they do not have public interest in mind. All these years, therefore, district administration is a good concept, but when it comes to actual implementation, it is a kind of cover-up and also transfer of benefits only within a small circle. Therefore, I object to the funding request because the origin of this is pork barreling. Now, I'd like to ask a question. This is under Head 707, New Towns and Urban Area Development. There are many things when it comes to the districts. What about the rural areas? I think with the guarding of the loyalists and the pro-government party, the funding request would certainly be supported. But this is about new towns and urban area development. What if we want to do this in a rural area? Would that conflict with this head of expenditure? Director. Thank you, Chairman. I must state clearly here that there is no distribution of political benefits. The origin of this funding request is such that when district councils embarked on minor works, the ceiling of expenditure was only $30 million, and they could not embark on large projects to meet the needs of the public. And that is why, to respond to the request of district councils, we are giving each district council $100 million so they can conduct projects of a certain scale. Ms. Chen Yunhan, your time is up. Chen Yunhan. Thank you, Chairman. I support this because when you go to a district council, you will know that the public would like more to be done. Very often, the queue is very long when it comes to meeting the public's needs. So I support this. And I think this is just a beginning. I think this was not triggered by any particular event. Rather, the administration must think about this for district councils. In the next term, all district councillors would be directly elected, and they all represent certain public interest. So we must allow district councils to have more room for development. Remember, when there was the municipal council, you promised that when the councils were disbanded, you would devolve the powers for doing cultural and recreational works to the district councils. So my thinking is that you should not repeat this experience, because you are now just giving $100 million to district councils without any guidelines. And I agree with other members in saying that you should not leave district councillors to their own devices. I think you should be more focused. And when you do this again, you should not just fulfill the election platform of the CE. What is more important is, if you work in district councils, you will know this. In fact, many cultural, recreational facilities have been proposed, and they all have to do with money. Well, Director, it seems you are saying that you are giving a big help to district councils. No. We would like Moores Park to link up Wong Tai Sin and Lok Fu. We have talked about it for years, but nobody listened to us. Since you are providing this kind of money, how can you allow district councils to be more proactive in managing district affairs? I hope that this will not be just one-off. Rather, you should think more about giving more powers to district councils so that you can really transfer the powers of the previous municipal councils to district councils. Director, you have heard Ms. Chan. Mr. Lo Wai Kok. Thank you, Chairman. I support the funding request. When I was at the Sha Tin District Council, I was responsible for certain district works projects. I agree with the Director that in the past we only had small sums for conducting minor works projects. If DCs would like to embark on large projects to benefit the public, we were very much constrained. So the $100 million funding is supported by me, and the preparatory and pre-construction works funding request is also supported by me. I have this question. Experience tells me that consultants employed for district works projects have to be chosen from the list of long-term contracts entered into by the HAD, and the fees to be paid are laid down by the HAD. Now that we are talking about larger scale events, what will be the arrangement for engaging consultants? Is it that we follow the old way, or we can engage consultants basing on the nature of the projects? I believe this can be a problem, as was pointed out just now. If district councils would independently manage the projects, they may not have the capacity or the experience, and we may need a consultant to help us. On the other hand, when the projects come to the PWSC in the future, maybe today we might not be able to clarify all matters, but Chairman, please give us some guidance. I have heard from many members that it seems they would like to be shown a list of preferred facilities. But I may not exactly object it. However, it should be for the DCs to engage on a democratic process in selecting the projects. I don't think the PWSC here should repeat the arguments over which projects to be chosen. I think as a PWSC, we should just be the gatekeepers for funding public works projects instead of repeating the process which should be undertaken at district councils. Director, first of all, engagement of consultants. You do not need to make use of the term contractors for consultancy work. With regard to larger scale projects, now if public works departments will help DCs to implement the projects, then we can follow the government procedure in engaging consultants. But if DCs would partner up with NGOs, we will provide some codes to the DC. The NGO must engage relevant works professionals incorporated in Hong Kong or people with equivalent qualification, so we can ensure professional knowledge and integrity. Mr. Lo Wai Kok mentioned the submitting of projects to LegCo for approval. I agree with him, because when projects come to LegCo, they would have gone through thorough discussion at the district councils, and consensus would have been reached, and the HAD would also ensure that the proposed projects would achieve the objectives of the SPS, And when they come to the LegCo, I hope members will respect the decisions based on consensus at the district councils. Mr. Alan Leong. Thank you, Chairman. The Civic Party's main concern is that you should not just be spending money for the sake of spending money, as reported in the media. If DCs would really like to embark on projects that cannot be undertaken under the $18 million ceiling, then this could still be a good arrangement. I'd like to ask the Director a few questions, which are in the paper. First of all, subhead 7017CX. Is it that you are the controlling officer? Is it the DHA?
Secondly, in the table, you have certain assumptions. That is in the enclosure. Now, of course, if there is remaining money, that's fine. That will go back to the administration. But say in reality, you have 15 districts asking for the funding instead of 13 in your assumptions. Will you come back to the FC for further funding allocation? Thirdly, now, Director, if you indeed are the controlling officer, what sort of criteria will you go about in allocating funding to each district and for each project? Now, the paper is not very clear today. You do not have the individual projects. If you really get the support for funding allocation of $200 million, are there any rules for you to go by in allocating the funding in the end? And it seems to me that not all the 18 districts will be able to submit their proposal by 31st of March. I already had a discussion with the director, and she told me indeed the date is not the deadline. But in that case, can the district council submit the proposal 1 or 2 years later, since you do not have a definite deadline? Now, for the funding, if the proposal are not subject to any deadline, and if we approve the funding application of $1.8 billion, what are we looking at? I can confirm that the Director of the Home Affairs is the controlling officer. This I can confirm, and we are asking for the approval of $29 million for 2013-14 for this subhead, and if the fund is not enough, we'll come back to the FC for further funding application. But if there is surplus, the surplus will go to the next year. As for how the fund will be allocated to various district councils, there is no fixed rules for that. The funding is for the pre-construction works of the SPS, covering the site investigations, technical feasibility studies, detailed design, the plans, and also the tendering documents and process. Now, the complexity and the scope of such works varies for different projects. The $29 million and the $200 million will support such works. So we will definitely conduct all the works processes required. And second point about the deadline. Since 31st of March is not the deadline, can they submit the proposals when they like? Well, I understand that the district councils are engaged in enthusiastic discussions about what projects they are going to roll out, and the projects are to be beneficial to communities. So I'm not worried about them submitting the proposals at a very late stage. What about the $1.8 billion? That will not be allocated in one go. When works-related projects come for funding application, they will be allocated the funding individually. I have to declare my interest as a district councillor, and so I support the project. I have 2 questions for the administration. If you can give me an answer on that, I'm sure that will be very beneficial. Concerning partnership, the administration says that the partner will be responsible for operation and maintenance cost. This is how I understand it. But the partner does not have to take up the asset replacement cost. This is a major difference. Let me give you a concrete example. For example, we're discussing with the MTR to install an escalator just next to a staircase. Barrier-free access facility is another matter, because that will be about building lifts. Now, we persuade them so that they are happy to allocate land space for us to build the escalator. They are even happy to build the escalator. They would cover the electricity bill and also the maintenance. But 30 years, 20 years down the line, there may be some problems to the facilities, and we have to look at the maintenance. So who is the asset owner? If we partner up with NGO, then we'll have to consider who is the director of the NGOs, and it's very troublesome. People may ask how come the Highways Department cannot be the asset owner. If the Highways Department can be the asset owner and is responsible for the maintenance and the building of the facilities, then the facility will be owned by the HD, that is the Highways Department. In that case, it's easier for the DC to identify partners, and we don't have to think about who the asset owners will be. Now, you may think 30 years down the road is such a long time away, but I hope you can answer my questions. For the individual projects, we'll allow the district council to have sufficient discussion before they submit the proposal, and then we will further discuss the proposals with the district council. Sorry, I don't think you answer my question at all. The mode of operation you are proposing is such that we want to know whether we can identify government departments as our partners so that it will be responsible for maintenance and cost. Can that be done? It seems to me that you haven't thought about the details. I think at least you can answer my question just now. Is it the case that you are going to engage in slow, long discussion with us? No, it's not, as Mr. Michael Tian has pointed out. We hope the DC, in liaising with the partner, they can iron out all the differences. This is what I call a proper process. If the DC would like to have assistance from the government, from government departments, of course we will cooperate with them. Now, in the district councils, we have lots of proposals, and we have to identify which proposals we go for. We don't know the rules of the games. We don't know whether we meet your requirements. So we are left with so many problems, and that is difficult for us to vote for which proposal to go for. It should be the case that we submit the proposal and the HAD will tell us whether some proposal fit your requirements. But at present, we do not know what's happening. and we cannot make a decision. So I'm sorry. I think the district officers are aware of these problems. It's very clear. If there is no maintenance, no repair for a certain project, then this proposed project is not feasible. I think the crux of the matter is in partnering up with government departments and NGOs in the discussion for which project to go for. The district councillors have to know very clearly what problems there are. And the district officers will have to know about the problems so they can provide help to the district councils. Because for certain projects, there may be different considerations you have to look into. So if the district officers know very well the problems, it will be better. But they cannot answer my question at the district council. And now the director cannot answer my question as well. Now, you heard Mr. Michael Tan's question. Director, can you make sure that all the district officers in assisting the district councils in the discussion, in identifying the projects, they can provide the sufficient assistance and they know very well what the policies are, so there would not be any mistakes made. Well, if we identify a project and we understand later it does not meet your requirements, then it's a waste of time. We'll make sure the district officers will know which projects are feasible. If a project cannot have a maintenance and repair in place, is not feasible, and the district council should not have submitted such a proposal. Well, you're confusing me. Does it mean the partner has to keep or maintain the project in the long run, like forever? Well, you have to conduct a cautious discussion with your partner. It means the partner is responsible for the existence of the project, like forever, not just the maintenance and the repair. It's only today that I come to know that is the asset replacement is also the responsibility of the partner. Is that correct? I think so, yes. If something is out of order and it can't be used, then, sorry, director, if something is broken, then that should be maintained and repaired. Asset replacement is another matter. Is about when something comes to the end of its lifespan, what will happen to that product. It's not about something broken down. It's about when the lifespan of something comes to an end, what will happen to that project. Well, that will depend on the view of the district council, but our view depends on your view. Director, if the project is not useful anymore, then it should be given up, yes. Even if we're talking about a building, 100 years later, it has to be demolished. In that case, if you use that logic, does it mean there's nothing for us to do? That's for the district councillors to discuss. You were talking about limited funds only. The project should cost less than $100 million. What large-scale projects can you do with that? You have to consider the replacement cost in the future when you roll out the projects. So please tell us more about the partner. Does it mean it has to be responsible for the replacement for the many years to come? So it has to make sure the project will still stand forever. In that case, I don't think I can identify any partner. And next, we have Mr. Albert Chan. Second time you speak. 2 minutes for you. Well, I envy Mr. Michael Tan because he talks for 8 minutes. And Chairman, you stopped me when I first spoke. I think you are unfair. You made a political decision. Mr. Tan's question reflects the insufficiency in terms of information in the papers. The questions raised by Mr. Tan should be addressed when the project goes to the FC. For example, the legal responsibility, the responsibility of the partners, etc. Now, sometimes the project is broken in the district council level. Say, for example, something next to the roadside, and it becomes an eyesore. And we have to look for funding to repair that. I can give you a numerous list for that.
I will come back to my earlier question. This is under head 707, New Towns and Urban Area Development. What if we'd like to conduct a project in the rural area? Is it because of this head of expenditure that we cannot do anything in the rural area? Director, you can do something within the rural area. As to where the funding should be spent, it can be within the boundary of the entire district council. But the head of expenditure is New Towns and Urban Area Development. So I don't understand why you subsume it under this head of expenditure. Why don't you also look at the different types of land before you select a head for seeking expenditure? Chairman, I will ask the FST Bureau to take the question. And what if we'd like to do something within country parks? Please also include country parks in your answer. I can't hear you. Actually, there is 7014CX subhead, which is for rural minor projects, which is under head 707, and 7016CX is also under head 706. After discussing with the HAD, we like to have consistency, so we subsume this under head 707. As to what can be done, it is up to the FC's final approval, and that is about the proposed coverage. Then why don't you change the name of the head of expenditure, because it is confusing, and I don't think it was designed to expand the scope to such an area. It was not the original intention. Okay, please tidy up this point. Mr. Albert Chan reprimanded me for managing members' speaking time. Sorry, I won't accept it. Please record that. The first time you talked for over 4 minutes, which was totally unrelated to the item under discussion. Chairman, why do you say it is unrelated? I am the one to decide whether what I say is related. Well, when it's time's up, then you cannot carry on. Well, Mr. Michael Teen also exceeded his time limit. No, he only asked the question for just a minute. That is why I allowed for more detailed follow-up questions. The clerk, you must record this. The chairman must not abuse his power. I will put this item to the vote. Those who are in support of this item, hands up. Okay. We will go for a division. According to the rules of procedure, the division bell will ring for 5 minutes.
但我想提醒大家
I'd like to remind members that you must take your own seat because when we press the button to vote, you must press the presence button in your own seat first. I'd like to remind you that please first press the presence button and then choose one out of the voting buttons to indicate that you support or not support or abstain. Now voting begins. Please check your votes. Please check the buttons you have pressed. If there is no question, voting is closed and the results are announced. The clerk, please display the results. The voting result is 19 members are present, 17 are in support, 1 is in opposition. I declare the item endorsed. Chairman, I request that this be voted separately on at the Finance Committee. Okay, second item. Head 703 buildings. Government Office, Intra-Government Services, 112KA relocation of the Court of Final Appeal to number 8 Jackson Road. Members are invited to recommend to Finance Committee the upgrading of 112KA to Category A at an estimated cost of $463.6 million in money of the day prices for the relocation of the Court of Final Appeal to number 8 Jackson Road. The administration consulted the AJLS panel on the 26th of February, and the panel showed support to the proposal. The gist of the discussion has been tabled, and according to members' request, the administration submitted supplementary information, and that is in Annex 11 to the paper. Attending to answer members' questions are the following public officers: Ms. Emma Lau, Judiciary Administrator; Mr. Asman Lee, Deputy Judiciary Administrator; Mr. Leung Kun Ki, Director of Architectural Services; and Mrs. Sylvia Lam, Project Director, ASD. Welcome to you all. Mr. Wong Kwok Hing. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask a question, please. Later, number 8 Jackson Road will become the Court of Final Appeal building. We'd like to know whether the public can still take guided tours in the building, because when this building was used as the Legislative Council building, even when the Legislative Council was in session, guided tours were still allowed. This is the first question. Secondly, I'm interested in knowing where the Bridge of Sighs is. I am not sure where it is, because this seems to be the way for the defendant to enter the courtroom. I cannot see this Bridge of Sighs in the drawings. Can you let me know where it is? Judiciary Administrator, thank you. After CFA is relocated to number 8 Jackson Road, our consideration is that without hampering the operation of the CFA, we can allow the public to enter the building for a tour. There will be two aspects. One, in the future CFA, there will be two galleries. One where the antechamber used to be, there will be a gallery to display court-related or judiciary-related matters. And also in the basement, the ASD will help mount an exhibition on the different aspects of the building. And also, when CFA has moved back to WA Jackson Road, we will design some guided tours, and we will make arrangements whereby the public can enter the building to enjoy the special architectural features. As for the bridge of size, and I can defer to my colleague, Mr. Lee, or the ASD to give you an explanation. Mr. Lee, please. Actually, we were not able to see it when the building was used as electrical because it was hidden by false ceilings. The exact location is on Jackson Road in a secondary entrance. This bridge of size was to link up the waiting room for defendants and the courtroom. As the JA said a moment ago, we like to reinstate the bridge of size, and the public can also take a look. Chairman, I'd like to ask a follow-up question. When I look at the pictures and drawings, I think this should be in the chamber. I'd like to know whether we can still see the dome, the inside of the dome, because we were able to see it. I think so, yes, because it is like an atrium. Thank you, Chairman. Yes, you can still see it. Our target is to act according to the Heritage Assessment Impact study, and we will keep the outlook of the entire building. I still like to ask about another thing, and that is the public galleries. After the CFA moves back in, are you going to keep the public galleries? JA. Thank you, Chairman. In Annex 11, we have given you an account. The public galleries will be demolished.
We consider that in three aspects. According to the Heritage Impact Assessment Report, it was recommended that the timber structure and the ceiling structure should be kept, but the public galleries is suspended. It's a suspended structure, and we have to demolish it so that we can review the arches and also the ceiling. And in this way, we can also restore the chamber to its original features. And we think in doing so, we can also have more access to sunlight, and it will also be in line with the transparency of a courtroom, and we can also restore the corridor to its full width in demolishing the public galleries. Mr. Tam Yu Chung. I respect the considerations put forward. I don't have any strong views, but I would like to give you a gentle reminder. We've spent quite some time in the former electrical building, so may I recommend to you to open up the veranda on the first floor for public access. I think this is a good suggestion, but please consider the low railings on the veranda. If people sit on the railings to take photos, there may be danger. They may ask people to go to the ground floor to take photos for them, and there's a worry that they may fall. And the tiles are very slippery. They're old. We did not have lots of chances to go outside to the veranda, but I understand that the tiles are rather slippery. So if people climb on the railings, they're rather dangerous. So please mind that issue when you open up the veranda. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for the suggestion. In opening up any facility, say for example the veranda, the corridor, safety and security are our top priority. Mr. Albert Chan, Chairman, I really missed this building, and I did not quite support the relocation of CFA to this building because we're talking about a very special building. Now, looking at the design, of course, I give you my support for the funding allocation. Now, this CFA building, I hope it will not turn into a people's court. Let's take a look at enclosure 6. I do not quite like the design. Maybe there's a difference between reality and the photo here. Now, I think they make reference with the seats here in Leshko, but they are not exactly pleasant to the eye. So I'm not sure whether, in terms of design, you will consider putting something that is in line with the traditional seating in a courtroom and not turn it into a people's court. Thank you, Chairman. In the interior design, in fact, we made reference with the layout setting of jurisdictions under common laws, and we also took on board the views expressed by our colleagues, and we also consulted the Chief Justice at relevant meetings concerning the layout, the design. In terms of the design, practicality is of utmost importance. That should be in line with, that should fit our operational needs. We need sufficient space, so it will facilitate the operation of a court. And we also made reference with the design of courtroom in jurisdictions under common laws. Operational needs is of importance, and the design should also be in line with the transparency of a CFA. Mr. Alan Leung, I would like to focus on enclosure 11. It's about the meeting of AJLS panel on the 26th of February. Members' views are listed here, and the replies from the administrations are also listed here. The JA talked about the preservation of public galleries, and she gave you 3 reasons for refusing to keep the public galleries. I think there is still room for discussion. After the meeting at AJLS panel, I have to say that this building has been the Leshko building for over 25 years, and we do not want to wipe out this history. Now, you gave us the reasons for demolishing the 2 public galleries. Let's take a look at suggestion 2. It says here what the Chief Justice is firmly believes. I think they completely miss the point. We're not asking the judiciary to give us a detailed explanation as to where the democratic lawmakers stood on the 30th of June in 1997, or where the de facto referendum was held. We're just asking you to have a landmark at appropriate spots in the building, or to include 2-3 photos about this part of history in the leaflet. Will you strongly oppose to this suggestion? I think the Chief Justice is very busy, and he may not know what happened at the panel meeting. I just want to make sure there is no misunderstanding in passing on our views. We're not asking the judiciary to lay out the history of democratic history. That's too much, but in your reply stated here, does it show that you do not quite understand the views expressed at the AJLS panel dated 26th February? JA. Thank you, Chairman. Now, members expressed their views. We noted your views and we appreciate your views. In the papers, we already state that in future guided tours, the visitors will be told that for 25 years, the building has served as the electrical building, and the architectural features will be explained by the exhibition held by the ASD. In parrot 12 and 13, in enclosure, parrot 12 and 13 of the enclosure, in fact, we want to let members know the stance of the Chief Justice. There are two messages to the guided tours. First, judiciary-related matters, and secondly, the architectural interest. The stance of the CJ is that any subjects outside the two themes will not be appropriate to be included in the guided tours. We would like to make it clear to lawmakers, and we hope you will understand. In the paper, it states clearly that in the guided tours, visitors will be told that for 25 years, the building has served as an electrical building. What about the major events happened when it serves as the electrical? Is it the case that the CJ also opposes the mentioning of this? The CJ stance is very clear. Anything that goes beyond the two themes are not appropriate for the guided tours, even if it's something major in history. Thank you, Chairman. The CJ thinks is not appropriate to include matters that's not related to judiciary. Mr. Tony Share. Thank you, Chairman. I support the project. I support the funding allocation. Now, I'm concerned that this building is a historic building and it has its own characteristics. I hope it can be open to members of the public. I think it's a good idea for you to suggest it. Now, I have a question for you. Have you considered that how many people will be included in the guided tours held at weekend Sundays? And I don't quite know which areas will be open to public. You have areas or public areas. Is it open to public? Or do you have other meanings for that? If so, can you give me some photos to make it clear which areas will be open to public? May I remind members that today we should focus on issues related to the public works. For the guided tours in the future, they should not be asked here if I stick to the rules. In fact, these issues should be raised at the panel meeting. But some members have already asked these questions, so JA, can you please reply to these? Now, concerning the details of the guided tours, we haven't decided on it yet. For major areas, they will be covered in the tours. But we have to have further discussion about the details. For public area, for CFA, for courtrooms, most of the areas are open to public. That means members of the public, court users can enter those places. Whereas for the guided tours, I'm sure they will cover areas that are not normally open to members of the public. For example, Bridge of Sighs. Now, this is not a public area, but that will be covered under the guided tours. That is areas that are not accessible to court users normally. But we still have to have more discussions concerning the details. Mr. Wuchiwai, can you make a public undertaking in relocating the CFA to number 8 Jackson Road? You can make full records about all the repairs and relocation. We cannot change the decisions or the views of the CJ, but I think you should give a full record of its history. I think you can make a full record about the restoration and put the records in LashCo so we can make a comparison between the present and the past. And you may demolish certain structures. And if you can keep the structures, you can ask the more experienced lawmakers here about their views on this. May I defer to my colleague to answer the questions? Before, during, and after the restoration, we'll make full records of what happened during those periods. And there will be a gallery covering this information.
What about heritage items? Yes, they will be included. All architectural features and their information will be included in the exhibition. The building itself is a heritage item. Well, my understanding is that, yes, the building itself will be preserved. But what about the quarter-of-a-century use of it as the Legislative Council? I hope, things that members like you will know should be preserved. Yes, actually, before that quarter-of-a-century, it was used as a courtroom. And I believe everything that is worth preserving will be preserved. If there are no other questions, I will put the item to the vote. Those who are in support, please raise your hands. Thank you. Those who are in opposition. Thank you. I'm of the view that the majority of members voting are in support of the item. The item is endorsed. Next item. Head 707, New Towns and Urban Area Development. Paper PWSC 2012-1358. 823TH Kwan Lam Tin Tunnel. Members are invited to recommend to FC the upgrading of part of 823TH entitled Kwan Lam Tin Tunnel to Cat A and an estimated cost of $196 million in money of the day prices. That is the detailed design and site investigation. On the 22nd of February, the administration consulted the transport panel. Members showed their support to the funding request. The gist of the discussion has been tabled for members' information. And according to members' request, on the 4th of March, the administration supplied supplementary information. Attending to answer members' questions today are the following public officers: Mr. Yao Sheng-mu, Undersecretary for Transport and Housing; Ms. Rebecca Poon, Deputy Secretary for TNH; Mr. Edward To, PAS for Transport and Housing; Mr. Hon Chi-kyung, Director of CED; and Mr. Lee Tin-sang, Chief Engineer of CEDD. Welcome to you all. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. I have a very short question. I support the Works project. I'd like to take the opportunity to put this on record that the project will traverse Yau Tong, which is at the Toll Plaza of the East Harbor Crossing. I like to talk about light pollution and noise that may be generated, and actually many residents would like to take the opportunity to get an undertaking from the administration. As you know, in 2016, the Eastern Harbor Crossing will be repurchased by government. I'd like to know whether you can give the undertaking to get prepared that the noise and light pollution problems would be handled after you have got back the management of the toll plaza. Mr. Yao, the concern raised is known to us. Therefore, according to the schedule, in 2016, when the Eastern Harbour Crossing will revert to government, the relevant departments will look at ways and means to see how noise and light pollution can be mitigated. This project will help to ease the noise problem. In our design, we have already taken on board the views of members and also district personalities so that we keep noise to a minimum and we also act according to legal requirements. A short follow-up, please. I hope the Undersecretary will conduct such advanced research and preparatory work ASAP because the residents have spoken out a lot about noise and light pollution. If you can research into those, the mitigation measures can also be taken up early. Please take note of the point. Yes, we are aware of the time element. Mr. Alan Leong, Chairman, I think you know this very well. It is proposed to build the tunnel near the site. Yao Lai Estate would be the most affected. I think you know that very well, Chairman. And Yao Lai Estate residents, of course, understand because when they moved in, they could see that there is the Eastern Harbour Crossing Tunnel. But if there would be more light, air and noise pollution, then they would, of course, want you to keep it to the minimum. That is the concept. And the Undersecretary was right. As a matter of fact, during the design stage, they have really taken on board a lot of the community views. They have gone for a low-lying option instead of the elevated option. They are depressing the interchange to 20 meters below ground. I think that is going to help. But I hope the Undersecretary will listen to this. Yao Lai Estate and other residents in the vicinity also hope that later on, when the project is constructed, actually at the detailed design stage, you can look at a few more aspects. One, you can expand the coverage. You have the greening area. Now that you are depressing the tunnel to 20 meters below ground, but you're going to landscape the area at grade. We'd like you to expand the green area so that there would be more noise barrier to keep noise to a minimum. And something else the Undersecretary may know already, and that is the ingress, the toll plaza going into EHC. In some options, it was said that there could be some overhanging noise barriers. I'm not asking for noise enclosures because that would entail a large project, but I'd like to know whether you can have some kind of noise insulation facilities so as to minimize noise and disturbance caused to Yao Lai Estate residents. I think you should consider that. However, I understand there is a difficulty. Should this be the responsibility of the EHC company or the government? I think you are still arguing over it. I hope you will be flexible with that. And then you should also consider reducing the lanes. I think you have looked at that already. I'd like you to see whether you can still minimize them. Last but not least, I think the administration has come to understand this perspective recently, and that is if you want smooth conduct of the projects, you would, of course, like to allow the residents in the vicinity to understand your each step. Are you going to go forward, backward, to the left, to the right? You should tell them everything. The Yao Lai Estate residents are saying that you may not be communicating enough with them, and they would like you to tell them more. And I'm aware that today, Chairman, The funding request is not about a final design. I hope what I said would be looked into by the Bureau. Okay, the Bureau, please pay attention. Mr. Gary Fan. Chairman, before I spoke, I'd like to talk about a procedural matter. With regard to Mr. Albert Chan's complaint, my own observation is, now this is a point of order. No, this is not a point of order. It is a point of order. I like to emphasize, if you argue with me, I will ask you to come back to the Kwan Lam Tin Tunnel. Chairman, I am speaking because I think you have adopted a double standard. I am still within my 5 minutes. I like to reiterate to you, if you digress from the subject, I will terminate your speech. All right? Chairman, I'm still of the view that you are unfair. I will speak now. Under Secretary, I support the item. I support the project. On different occasions, I have spoken in support of the project. I would actually say that you should complete it ASAP. Para 1 of the paper says that the Cyclone DC and also residents, especially road users, are all of the view that you should implement the project ASAP. Because, 1, Kwan O is the 7th new town. The rise in population has generated a lot of traffic demand, and there is traffic pressure. Sometimes members of the public may not understand what 1 to 3 point something, 1 to 2 point something mean. But then if you look at the peak hour traffic congestion, indeed it is very serious. There has been the landfill in Kwan O. Every day there were 2,000 large and heavy vehicles trips going into Kwan O, and that is why the community suffered from traffic jam and also poor environment hygiene. Indeed, the Kwan O community has a great demand for this. Plus, the Kwan O highways are such that the administration has been saying we cannot erect any noise barriers there. But all the time, the noise there is in exceedance of the noise limit, and various housing developments in the vicinity have suffered from really high noise disturbance. If we can build this tunnel, this is going to provide some relief, even if it is not a final solution. And as we know, if you delay the project, there will be inflation, material costs will go up, and the prices are going to go up. So if you delay more, there would be more expenses. Therefore, we hope you can, in fact, speed up the project so that the Kwan O community can enjoy better traffic infrastructure. Okay, the Bureau, you have heard Mr. Fan. If there are no other questions, I will put the proposal to the vote. Those who are in support, hands up. Thank you. Those who oppose the item, hands up. I am of the view that the majority of members voting are in support of the project. Next item. PWSC 2012-1357. Members are invited to recommend to FC the upgrading of part of 414RO entitled Improvement Works at Mui War Phase 1 to Cat A and an estimated cost of $193.1 million in money of the day prices. The administration consulted the development panel on the 26th of February, and members supported the funding request. The gist of the discussion has been tabled for members' information. Attending to answer members' questions are the following public officers: Mr. Tony Lee, PAS for Development, Mr. Hon Chi Kang, Director of CEDD, and Mr. David Low, Chief Engineer Islands, CEDD. Welcome to you all. Mr. Tam Yu Chung. Chairman, I welcome this improvement works project, but all along, I think we can do more for Mui War because it has a beautiful environment, it has a beach and everything else. But since Tung Chung development Mui Wo has, in a way, been cornered. Very few people frequent Mui Wo. I think it's a waste. It is a beautiful place for enjoying your holidays. So we support the Improvement Works project. The DAB has put forward many proposals before, but progress has been slow. I still would like to mention certain points. The ferry pier at Mui Wo. A lot of bikes are parked there, and residents would like you to manage the bikes better. Well, this time around, you have not included that in the project, but keep it on your mind and try to improve the environment even more. And also, River Silver, the egresses, are you going to improve them? Because it seems at River Silver, the outfalls are not satisfactory. Will there be any improvement with this project? Thank you, Chairman and Mr. Tam. In Phase 1, as we said in the paper, we would segregate the cycle track with the pavement at the waterfront for the sake of safety. Mr. Tam mentioned the ferry pier and the parking of bikes. We understand, we know that. In the remaining part of the project, we'll consider. Now, if you know the topography well there, we can improve the cooked food stall area so that we can provide a permanent cycle park nearby. Mr. Tam mentioned another point.
About the ingress. Well, in fact, at present, we haven't covered such improvement works at that part. Yes, that's why what I pointed out to you are important. See, once you go to the pier, then you see all these bikes parked there, so please manage them better. And you know, the residents there cycle, and this is the main mode of transport. For the cooked food market, there's a kind of store, a kind of pavilion, kiosk. How can you improve on that area? I think you just fit bits and bits into the project, and it's not exactly satisfactory. I hope you can look into the points pointed out. Right, PAS, perhaps you can discuss the matter, the points raised by Mr. Tam to your colleagues, because the projects proposed haven't covered any additional facilities and improvement works in Mui Wo. And you also have to do a better job in terms of management. So please pass on the views to the relevant departments. If there's no further question, let's put the application to the vote. Those in support, please raise your hands. Please put them down. Those in opposition, please raise your hand. I'm of the view that the project is supported by most members. So the project is endorsed. Thank you. The projects discussed at this meeting is expected to be discussed and submitted to the FC meeting on the 3rd of May. For the first discussion item, that should be voted separately at the FC meeting. No other members, the other projects are not requested to be voted separately.